become dizzy with just scrolling on your phone, watching an action-packed movie, going into a grocery store where you have all these items to look at, or even just in a crowded area? You may have been experiencing what we call visual motion sensitivity. Today, I'm going to be explaining what visual motion sensitivity is, what the symptoms of it are, and what you can do about it. Now, visual motion sensitivity, as I was saying, is a sensitivity to all of the complex information that your brain is receiving through your eyes, and it's having difficulty processing it. Now, this can happen from a variety of different conditions, but the symptoms are usually nausea, dizziness, headache, eye strain, fatigue, and it can happen with, as I was saying, movies, video games, especially virtual reality, scrolling on the smartphone or computer, navigating busy environments like a grocery store, or just crowded areas. And it's not so much, it's sometimes related to disruption of the vestibular system. So if you have some kind of, inflammation like a vestibular neuritis that affects how you're receiving sensory information, sometimes the brain has a hard time processing everything that's going on. If there's some kind of mismatch between, let's say, your vision, what your vision is telling you where you are in space, and what your inner ear is telling you where you are in space, then that can cause some kind of processing error from the brain and cause you to be a little bit more sensitive to visual information. Now, that is one possibility of what's happening with visual motion sensitivity, especially if you had a new onset. Some people have had this kind of all their life. Some people are going to be more susceptible to it, either based on genetics or other underlying conditions that they have. But if you have a new onset of visual motion sensitivity, just started one day, this could have been after some kind of vestibular disruption. You had some kind of bout of dizziness, and your brain is no longer able to process all of the sensory information that it's receiving. And some of the things that might be happening with the visual motion sensitivity is that there can be this disruption to the autonomic nervous system. So when your brain is getting overwhelmed with visual information, it can kind of trigger more of a sympathetic response. So what this means is that the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight system, is going to kick in and respond to this kind of overwhelm from the visual information. Now, this can result in an increase in heart rate, maybe a flushed pallor, or you kind of look pale because the arteries are constricting and sending more blood flow to kind of your core body from the periphery. And you may be experiencing nausea, vomiting as well from these symptoms. It's not that fun, right? So you have this kind of autonomic dysfunction, this physiological state that's occurring along with some of these visual motion sensitivity symptoms as well. And that suggests that there's some kind of emotional response to the visual motion sensitivity. And that's an area that we can also address when you're experiencing this visual motion sensitivity. Now, physiologically, what's happening with eye movements when you're experiencing this condition? Now, especially after concussions, what they've measured is that when the eyes are, trying to track something that's moving, there can be this overactivity. We call it optokinetic reflex. Now, let's say that I'll kind of explain what this means. Let's say you're on a train and you're looking out the windows and you're watching the scenery go by. Your eyes are going to start to kind of follow the scenery, and then they're going to snap back and center again, because eventually that scenery is going to fade out of your vision. Now, that kind of snap back is what your eyes are trying to do to keep an image stable. Now, what can happen is you have this kind of overactivity of that optokinetic reflex where your eyes are moving faster. The slow part of it isn't going as long as it usually is because there is some kind of disruption in the brain. But they have measured that this reflex can be faster in people who experience visual motion sensitivity. Now, that's kind of could be one physiological explanation for why this is happening, is that, your brain's trying to compensate for some kind of disruption or something that's not working as optimally as it should. And it's just kind of a poorly regulated reflex. So other factors that can contribute to this visual motion hypersensitivity. I talked about kind of genetics. This could be something that there's a genetic predisposition to experiencing this if you've kind of had it your whole life. There have been for people with migraines are more likely to experience visual motion sensitivity. And that makes sense because they already have this heightened sensitivity to their brain and sensory systems already. A lot of times migraines people have sensitivity to sound, sensitivity to light, to smells. That a lot of times those can trigger migraine attacks. And they've also measured that people with anxiety can have an increase in visual motion sensitivity as well. And that kind of goes along with that dysregulation of the nervous system too. So what can you do about some of these symptoms? One of the best things that you can do are adaptation and habituation exercise. And this is something that is done in vestibular rehab, in vestibular physical therapy. Basically, habituation is exposing yourself to whatever's making you dizzy. And we do this, in short periods where you're able to stop, your symptoms don't get too high, and you're able to recover before doing another repetition. So those are the important things, is that you're getting this rest in between repetitions so that your brain has a chance to recover. Because if you just kind of keep going and do too much, then your brain's just going to get overwhelmed like it is whenever you're getting this visual motion sensitivity. So the short periods and the breaks are very important to making you be successful with habituation exercises. So starting slow, taking your time. Another thing that you can do to help with the visual motion sensitivity is vision therapy. And there are vision therapists specifically that work with this. Cognitive behavioral therapy as well can help reduce the emotional aspect to what you experience when you're having visual motion sensitivity. So working with a therapist, kind of having more than one therapist at a time, doing cognitive behavioral therapy along with maybe vestibular rehab can be really effective in kind of attacking the problem at both ends. And believe it or not, there's some studies have shown that even chewing gum can help with visual motion sensitivity. I don't know if it's because you're being distracted by the effects of the chewing gum, the mechanism, or if it's just kind of the pleasant taste to it. But they also looked at, relaxation techniques. So things like diaphragmatic breathing to help combat the nervous system dysregulation when you're experiencing it. Things like meditation, positive emotions they've also done research on, because people with anxiety and negative emotions are more likely to experience visual motion sensitivity. And olfactory stimuli. So pleasant smells can also help with the visual motion sensitivity as well. Now, if you're experiencing this and there's some kind of underlying condition like a migraine, it's going to be best to try and address that root cause of the migraine, so that you're not just treating the symptom of a bigger problem. Now, if the visual motion sensitivity came on, acutely, and you've been dealing with it for a short period of time, and that's just the main problem, those adaptation habituation exercises are going to be really effective. Make sure that you're looking at your environment, you're taking breaks, especially if you're on the computer or on your phone a lot and that's what you do for work. Make sure you take breaks to let your brain kind of reset and recover before your symptoms come on or get too bad. Optimize your viewing setting, maybe make your font a little bit bigger so your eyes don't have to go as quickly through the page. Reduce any clutter to decrease a busy environment so that your eyes don't have to go and tracking all these different things. And just having kind of this sense of positivity as well is going to be helpful for if you're dealing with visual motion sensitivity. So those are some of the things that are going to be most helpful. We kind of talked about why people experience it. And some of the things that might be contributing to visual motion sensitivity. If you found this helpful, I'd love to know, and I'd love to know what you have done to help improve your symptoms of visual motion sensitivity if you've experienced it before. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Kevin Smith. I'm a vestibular physical therapist, and this is the Vertical Recovery Doctor channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.